Hopefully everybody can see the presentation screen. My name is Gabriel Machowski-Kapuzka, and I have a PhD in ecology. I'm the project lead for the Clean Cooking Cookstove project in PNG. This webinar is part of the stakeholder engagement, one of the many different resources that we are using for stakeholder engagement. We are doing face-to-face stakeholder engagements in different provinces, and we have decided to have this recording as a tool for those that they are not able to attend in person. The team of the project is composed by Michael Kisombo. He's our PNG project manager. He's currently in the Highlands. We just finished one of the several local stakeholder engagements we have planned. And then the team is also composed by David Tao and Cherie Sim, that they are from TEM, Tasman Environmental Markets, that is our company driving this stakeholder engagement. What are we trying to do today? Just to keep it very simple, we want to give you a project overview of what a Cookstove project looks like for Papua New Guinea. What is the plan that we have in place, and how are we going to achieve this plan? And how important is for us to listen to your feedback. What are the sources that we have in place to address this feedback? And we would like to receive some constructive feedback for us to move things forward with the project. Let's kick on with something very complex that relates to the climate change. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Basically, what I'm going to say is that our environment is in a balance. As you can see in the picture, carbon dioxide is produced and recycled continuously in our environment. And as humans, we are the only ones that will interfere in unbalancing this cycle, and that creates an excess of carbon, and that creates coming from fossil fuels mostly, and that creates some of the effects that leads to climate change, to keep it simple. Another part that is very important to mitigate these effects is the protection of forest or the protection of mangrove ecosystems, for example, that they help us to absorb carbon dioxide and keep this environment in balance, basically. The opposite side is our intervention as humans, that we drive cars, we invest in our agricultural practices, farming, and our factories and industries, they emit over 20% of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. And then another 20% is also emitted to the atmosphere from clearing and burning forests. That's why it's very important for us to protect our forests, that they serve us as a buffer to maintain this equilibrium. Who are we and what are we doing here? Tasman Environmental Markets, it's a private company. It has been built to organize this rapidly growing big demand for organizations to address climate change. We are a nexus with these big organizations and least developed countries, to empowering businesses and consumers from one side to come on board and achieve these carbon emission reductions, and at the same time make extraordinary impact and life-changing projects that they involve carbon reduction in different countries, including Papua New Guinea in particular. For many, many years, we have been partnering with different iconic brands. The idea is to help them in their journey to become carbon neutral, achieve their net zero emission goals. And through that process, we design and implement different projects that they benefit the communities. And this is why we are here, because we have this opportunity of implementing a project that is going to benefit the Highlands region in particular, and hopefully PNG later on. Which ones are our partners? we have been working with Bern. It's a world leader company in cookstove manufacturing. And we have been working with the 4 provinces in which we want to roll out these cookstoves. We have engaged with the Southern Highlands provincial government. We have engaged with the Western Highlands provincial government, with Jiwaka provincial government, and Eastern Highlands provincial government. They have all expressed their support for this project to go ahead. And as part of this journey, we would like to explain you what do we want to do. Why it is important to address this issue of clean cooking. 85% of the population in PNG, they rely in firewood for cooking. Families, they spend a long amount of hours collecting firewood and carrying heavy loads. Women and young children, as you all know, they spend lots of time cooking around traditional cooking fireplaces at the risk of severe smoke hazards and at the risk of health issues, developing health issues. In fact, the World Health Organization has estimated around 2 million deaths per year related to toxic issues of smoking. What do we did and how do we started this adventure? Last year, with our project manager, Michael Kisombo, we work with 26 local staff to develop a baseline for this project. We had a 2-day workshop in Monhagen, in which we discuss all the benefits that the project have and the risks that the project have. And we train all of these local teachers in your communities to collect data, different sources of data, for us to be able to understand behavioral practices of firewood collection, different cooking methods that you guys use up there, and then see what would be potentially the benefits that we can create by the implementation of these cookstoves. As part of this baseline study, we use a verified carbon standard. We use a methodology, and we brought into place the ECOA wood cookstove that has a thermal efficiency of 51.3%. It's very high thermal efficiency. What it does is that this cylinder that is being created in collaboration with different universities, what it does is that they centers and they gathers all of this energy created by firewood and helps that to reduce the amount of firewood that we use and to cook meals faster, basically. We work in 220 houses in the Southern Highlands and the Western Highlands. We distributed 160 cookstoves. We train 26 people, and then we train 220 different families in these communities to understand how to use the cookstoves. We did around 300 measurements of firewood consumption, and then we ran 80 cooking tests just to really understand first how much firewood each household consume and what are the practices for that. And then we ran cooking tests comparing what is the amount of firewood that a family will use in a traditional open fire practice versus using one of the cookstoves that we provide. The results, they were very enlightening, very good. We estimated firewood consumption per house around 5.56 tons per house per year. We got an understanding of the different firewood species with the help of a forestry expert in PNG. And then we understood how much money some of these families, they spend purchasing firewood per year. And then our results, they have shown that a family can save up to 20 minutes of cooking per meal, and they can save up to 7 tons of carbon dioxide per cookstove per year. Okay, with this in mind, what we decided to do is to engage with you guys, with local communities, local members of the communities. As part of our project, we decided to do this in a two-way dialogue between yourselves and us, TEM, that we are the project developer. We have created different platforms. We have created an email that you can send us your comment. We are creating this webinar, and we have created a space to do face-to-face interactions to receive all different questions and receive positive feedback and all of those intermediate or neutral feedback that they will help us to improve the project. The idea that we have in place is to build a constructive relationship over time. We want you guys to come through an open dialogue to help us to understand what are the risks of the project, how can we mitigate them, and then together we can create goals that they can highlight the importance of this project for the community. And the most important part here is that we want to involve all of you in the decisions related to the project to make a better project. It's a pity that Michael can join. He doesn't have good connection in the Highlands, unfortunately, but we will continue. What is this very difficult word, verified carbon standard? Long story short, we have international bodies. One of those is called VERA, and VERA has an international standard that is used for projects that they want to apply, they want to understand, or they want to be part of a crediting program on these greenhouse gases, as I explained earlier on. And the idea is to a certain set of rules and metrics, we can drive carbon finance to achieve the removal of these emissions, but also to improve the livelihood of the communities and achieve sustainable development goals. As part of all of this technicality, we are going to use a specific methodology that is called PMR 0006. And the concept is that we're going to provide or install high-efficient firewood cookstoves or cookstoves. As part of this process as well, that also brings some additional complex words. What we want to do is that we want to prove integrity to the project, to all the local stakeholders, and we are going to use this standard that this international body has created that is called the Sustainable Development Verified Impact Standard, that is going to help us to pinpoint all the different outcomes and all the different sustainable development goals that we are going to achieve in the project. All of these co-benefits that we're going to achieve in the communities. This is the right structure, the right framework that is going to help us to do that. That means that the project is going to work under the umbrella of an international body. It's called VERA. We are going to use a verified standard, a carbon verified standard, and we are going to use this SD Vista standard to pinpoint and address all the specific co-benefits that we plan for the communities. Hopefully it makes sense now. The question that we can ask ourselves, what is the role of this carbon finance that we are bringing to the project? The idea is that we are going to deliver these cookstoves at no cost for the communities. The cookstoves, they are going to reduce carbon emissions that our team, they're going to, after delivering the cookstove, they're going to go and measure regularly. These cookstoves, they create certain number of carbon units or carbon credits. Each of them is equal to 1 ton of carbon emissions. And then these carbon credits, they can be, once they are completely verified and they have been granted to us, they can be sold in the markets. And through that, we can continue rolling the project, basically. That means that any potential revenue for this project is going to be used to finance the affordability and the logistics of the project, and to be able to deliver and expand the project from the provinces that we have in mind, hopefully to the rest of the country. It is very clear to us, and it's unfortunate that Michael is not around. He can attest that we are going to create, we have been creating already jobs relating to this project. These jobs, they will include from the management of the project. We will work with experts in the topic that they are locals. We are going to cover all the logistic, training, community engagement. We are going to collect data. We need to process that. We are going to create jobs in administrations, among several others. And the idea is that the project, these carbon finance funds are going to help us to continue monitoring the project for 10 years. That is the lifespan of the project. Hopefully it makes sense. Okay, full-scale project insights. The insights of the project. We have selected the Highlands region. As I mentioned earlier, we will work on the Southern Highlands, Western Highlands, Eastern Highlands, and Jiwaka. We have in mind around 20 districts and 59 local level governments that we have been liaising with our local team in PNG. We are talking about the population of 1.8 million people. 90% of these people, they rely in firewood. The project will involve around 370,000 houses. What is the scale of the project? As I mentioned before, we are going to operate under the umbrella of this international body using this verified carbon standard. It's going to enable us to work in the highland regions, but it gives us the opportunity to expand the project if the project is successful. And then we will work with this other methodology that I mentioned before, that is SD Vista, to measure sustainable development impact in the project. As a first phase, we want to distribute around 100,000 cookstoves over the first years of the project. The project is going to run for 10 years, and we are planning to avoid around 4 to 5 million tons of carbon dioxide during these 10 years. What would be the summary of the benefits of the project? Open fire practices are known to increase the time spent harvesting and cooking. They increase health risks related to smoke emissions. They increase logging and deforestation, and they increase carbon dioxide emissions. As we share with you the results of our baseline project, our improved cookstoves, they literally decrease the time spent cooking, the amount of logging that we use, or the amount of firewood that we use, and that will reduce the amount of logging. They don't create smoke at the same rate or level that they create open fire practices, and they will reduce carbon dioxide emissions. That means that in a short and succinct summary, they are very beneficial to the communities. We are going to work under the umbrella of the United Nations for the development of different co-benefits. We are going to use something that is called SDGs, or Sustainable Development Goals. Our idea is we are planning to address some of these goals from no poverty, zero hunger or good health, to the creation of jobs, climate change, and protecting our forests, including the affordability of clean energy and gender equality. Short and sweet, how these goals they will be measured and how they are rated in the project. By delivering cookstoves, by building the team, we are creating jobs with our local communities. That's why we have a team in PNG. We are employing locals. We are training the locals. We are educating them in new practices of protecting the forest. We are educating them in climate change. And then we are going to deliver a methodology. We're going to deliver cookstoves. That's part of the SDG number 7. And the idea is to protect the forests. That's part of the SDG 13 and 15, and so on. That means that we have in place a structure to measure properly the impacts that we are going to have, the positives and the negatives, because we believe that by reducing the amount of firewood that the communities use, it is likely that some of those vendors they will reduce the demand of selling firewood, and we will address the concept as well. But overall, the project is extremely beneficial to the communities. How are we planning to implement the project? We have the funding partners on board. We are running now our paperwork for our stakeholders paperwork, government paperwork. We have decided the location already. We are doing the stakeholder engagement at the moment. Our team is been running the stakeholder engagement. Our team has been trained. And once we have the rights approvals in place, we are going to start delivering the cookstoves and distribute them house by house. And we are going to monitor and audit constantly the use of cookstoves and the benefits that they create. And we are going to work under this umbrella organization that has this methodology that is called the Verified Carbon Standard. And by the time that the units are released to us, we will sell them in the markets, and then in the way back, we will continue rolling out the cookstoves. What is our indicative project time frame? Okay, we already done the baseline study. We are working now in the stakeholder consultation and engagement. We are working in the PDD. PDD is the project description. We are doing lots of paperwork to address and comply with the rules of this international body organization. We are trying to finalize our funding and see to seek approval for our funding partners. And we are drafting additional paperwork that involve contracts. And then from there, we will use a third-party audit team that they will come and they will explore the whole project. And they will tell us what do they think about all the material that we have prepared. And when we have a letter of support from their side, we will go to the international body that they will take around 3 months. And they will, again, look at all the paperwork that we are submitting to see whether the paperwork complies with the rules of integrity and the standards that they have. And then hopefully by the end of September, we will start finalizing different the team. We're going to start finalizing the team, the procurement and arrival of cookstoves in PNG, and hopefully we can start the rollout in October. We plan to roll out around 100,000 cookstoves in 2 years. And then if possible, the project will expand. And the idea is that we will continue the project for 10 years. And our initial verification is going to be every 2 years, and the project will roll out for the initial verification will be 12 months. We will verify the project for 2 years, and we will continue the project for 10 years. I get the interruption because I have Michael that is in the Highlands that he's trying to tell me he wants to join the conversation. He wants to meet you guys, but unfortunately, internet is not helping in our side, and we will continue. Hopefully, so far, everything is going well, and I have explained myself properly. As part of our baseline project, as part of our pilot study, we have engaged with the communities. And then Michael and his team in PNG has also been running different plans for the implementation of the project. We have already a local team that is doing the stakeholder engagements in the Highlands, but we have already a plan for a local team that is going to work in the different provinces, and they are going to deliver the cookstoves house by house in each of the different wards and the provinces. We are going to, the idea would be to register people. Every time that we give a cookstove, we are going to have a phone with a special application that we are creating. We're going to collect a photograph and some personal details of the person with the cookstove. We're going to collect GPS location. We're going to collect the code of the cookstove for us to monitor. And all of that information is going to be stored in our cloud database for us to provide that to the auditors all the time that they want to come and check that the project is working and the communities are using the cookstoves, basically. As part of our implementation strategy, we are going to do lots of training. Every time that you receive a cookstove, you will receive 2 pamphlets that they will provide you instructions on how do you use the cookstoves and how do you save fuel and how do you clean them and how do you maintain them. And in addition to that, the communities are going to receive training with our local team. They're going to gather you guys in groups and they're going to train you on best practices to reinforce the concept of taking care of the cookstove for a good lifespan of the project, for the cookstove to last as long as possible. And then each house is going to be visited at least twice a year by our local team that are members of your communities, just to continue rehearsing training and how to maintain the cookstoves, but also to collect the data and ask questions on how the use of these cookstoves are benefiting your family. Okay, this is enough for me now. Now I would like to open the floor for questions. Please send me in the chat if you want to ask me any question. It would be really good to hear from you guys, and then I would be happy to answer the questions that you have in mind. Thank you. Well, I'm going to give it a couple of more minutes. Don't be afraid. This is the opportunity for us to answer any questions that you may have. I hope that you have enjoyed the presentation and you were able to deal with my accent as well. Please feel free to post the questions in the chat for us to be able to answer them. Okay. While we are wrapping up, I will share my contact details and Michael's details that they are part of our team. You can contact us via email, michaelkisombo@hotmail.com, or my one that is gabriel@tem.com.au. And here are our general details. Please feel free to ask us if you have any additional questions. I would like to thank you in advance to all of you. We have a question for Moab. That's really good. Are there any plans to cover coastal provinces as well in the future, especially Manus? Thank you for the question. Very, very interesting question. Look, our idea is to expand the project. As we explained earlier, we designed the project with the intention of expanding to different areas of PNG. Coastal communities in particular, we are aware of the use of mangroves for firewood as well, and we are aware of the consumption of firewood as well. That means that if the project works well, we are planning to expand to different areas. I can't say any area in particular at the moment, but we would be really eager, depending on the reception of the project, to expand broadly to PNG. Hope it helps. Any other question? Lincoln, Jack? Okay, I already provided you with the details. Please feel free to contact us if you have any other questions. You need to unmute yourself if you want to ask, or otherwise you post the question here. But we are wrapping up and we are closing up with time. Please contact us in the emails that we provided. feel free to reach us anytime, and we will answer any questions that you may have. Thank you for your involvement in the stakeholder consultation today. Hope you have a nice afternoon. Cheers.